Good morning, everyone, and happy Hanukkah. My name is Claudia Morgan. I am a member of the Board of Trustees, where we connect what we do with the mission of our congregation, and we are really glad you're here. We are an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial community. You are welcome here. For the newcomers, we invite you to fill out the guest connection card you will see in the chat. I think it's probably over on the side here. We want to be able to support your exploration of what's available in our community that interests you and how you might participate. Again, welcome. Now, before we begin our worship service, we have a few reminders up here on the screen. Children's Chapel is happening today. It started at 10 a.m. at Lowell Park. If you would like more information for participation in the future, connect with Jeff at jeffrey@uuoakland.org. Now, this is really important. On December 12th, we're having a congregational meeting to vote to affirm the eighth principle. You need to be a member to vote. So if need to, plan to join the congregation by the 28th of November. If you want texts or email reminders or more information, we'll request them from office@uuoakland.org. There is also information about the eighth principle on our website and also in the weekly Chalice Chatter, which has links to the UUA site where you can read more. Our third reminder today will be from Rhonda Bartley and Dan Wright about the 2022 stewardship. Please enjoy this video.
Rhonda, why have you been so dedicated to the stewardship team for the past 2+ years?
Well, Dan, I think it is the most natural thing in the world to care for those things that we care about. There isn't time for me to say how many ways this community has enriched my own life. But what I'd really like to say today is how important it is to me that this church continues to thrive, to be a source of transformation for Oakland and for those who haven't visited us yet. I'm also very excited to eventually get to the point of doing stewardship circles, both because they can be such a rich source of connection and also as a practical year-round stewardship. As a practical matter, year-round stewardship will help us in planning our annual budget.
Speaking of thriving, I read recently that during the COVID-19 pandemic, churches of all faiths across the United States have been losing vast numbers of members, and quite a few will actually have to close. You might think I'm going to become alarmist about our own community, but no. What this really means to me is that our community's presence will become even more important as a place people can come to do spiritual inquiry, to find community, to participate in personal and cultural transformation.
But it is true that during the pandemic, since folks can't come through our church doors, we are harder to find, and we have lost members too.
Well, of course, Rhonda, we're here to talk about stewardship. So getting down to business, everyone at UU Oakland has been hearing about changing to year-round stewardship. What is taking so long?
Yes, that's right, Dan. Year-round stewardship is about being together. It is really about getting to know one another and sharing what is important to us in person. Now, the Zoom has allowed us to see and hear one another, but as you and I have talked about, it's not how we envision stewardship circle gatherings.
Yeah, that's right. And the church still needs financial support in the meantime. I need to continue giving because it's part of how I create the world I want my daughter and my new granddaughter to live in. Is that why I got a call from the people setting up our new improved membership software system?
Dan, I'm glad you mentioned that. The short answer is no. That call was simply to move your recurring pledge payment from an old, expensive payment system called Vanco to the payment system that works with our new Breeze software. The stewardship drive this fall will be by email and phone again, since we're not able to get together yet. We're going to ask all of our members and friends to make a pledge that begins in January 2022. And although we hope that folks will make a sustaining pledge, which will continue at the same level of support until you let us know that you'd like to change it, of course, people may also prefer to pledge only for the year 2022.
And when will this 2022 pledge drive begin?
We are all set to contact folks by email today after the service.
Well, Rinda, again, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude for the love you have for our community, which you express so strongly with your commitment.
Thank you, Dan, and same for you.
And now for the lighting of our chalice. We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day. And now Stefan will light the Black Lives Matter candle. We light this candle in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and work for the day in which Black lives are treated equitably, with dignity and justice. Finally, we light our peace candle. We light the peace candle in memory of victims of violence, especially Black people killed by police. We remember, too, those who have been killed while standing against such violence. This week, we say the names of Ahmaud Arbery, Jacob Blake, Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber. At this time, let's unmute our microphones and greet our neighbors.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Good morning.
Hello,
everybody.
Thanks, neighbors.
Hello, Jane.
Claudia, Jane. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, hi.
Feeling better.
Good to see you all.
Hi, Judith.
Judith.
Hi, Marty.
Hi there.
Hey,
Hey,
Judith.
Ron.
Hi there.
Hi, MJ.
Hey, Mary Jane. How are
Hey, there's
you?
David, our new member. Hello, David.
Hi, David.
David.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Susie.
Happy
there.
Hanukkah,
Mary.
everyone.
David.
And Tom, welcome back.
Hi, Carol.
Hi,
Hi,
Mary. How are you?
Danny.
Hi. Good.
Hi, Evelyn. Hi, Alex.
Hi,
Hi,
Tim.
David. Hi, G.
Hi,
Hi,
Tom.
Donna.
Hi, Debbie. How are you
Hi,
doing? How are you feeling?
Kathleen.
Before we
Hi.
name
Hey,
everybody, I
Jane.
say hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
newcomers.
Hi, Dick.
Yeah.
Hi, Judith.
Hi
Hello.
there.
Hi,
Hey,
Dave.
Alex, Carol.
All right,
Hi,
it's so
Dick. Haven't
hard to
seen you in a
stop.
while.
I know.
Tries to greet each other. Please return now. You can mute your microphone. We begin today with a reading. This piece by Teresa Honey Youngblood is titled Somebody Like That. Did that man just strap a gun to his belt? My 10-year-old squinted, looking across the parking lot of the grocery co-op. I had seen it too. A middle-aged white man had stepped out of his pickup truck, taken out a black holster, and strapped it on, pulling a shirt down over it. I think he did. Should we call the police? No, it's legal to carry a concealed weapon in our state. No one talked in the car for a moment. Me again. I think we might just stay in the car until he gets back. I'm not sure how I feel about having seen that. 10-year-old. What is somebody like that doing at the co-op anyway? Somebody like that. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't the first thought that had crossed my mind, too. But cultural conditioning allowed me to censor it and check my prejudice. I admitted this to my 10-year-old. Maybe he's getting herbal medicine for someone who's sick in his family, or organic produce for a baby, or good vitamins. He's probably doing all the same stuff that we do here. The 10-year-old was dubious, but turned to play a game of rock, paper, scissors with the 7-year-old as we waited out the man's return. In my life, I have unexpected bedfellows who are as far and farther right than I am left. I grow a portion of my own food and know how to preserve it. So do they. I homeschool my kids. So do they. I go to church, pray, and know my favorite hymns by heart. So do they. I love this country and the ideals it is built on. They love our country and the ideals that it is built on. Everybody needs security. Everybody needs freedom. Everybody needs a place to buy vitamins. Now we will listen to hymn number 1023, Building Bridges. The words will be on the screen if you want to sing along, but please remain muted.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, our friends reach out to voices and reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, I reach out to voices and reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, our friends reach out to voices and reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Hello, everybody. I'm Emily Stoper, and today I am going to give you a wisdom story. It's called Transcending Boundaries, and it's by Yvonne Seon. When I was a child, I would stand and gaze at the starry firmament and contemplate infinity. As I stood there, the boundary that is time dissolved. I expanded my spirit to fill the boundary that is space. My being stilled, and all fear, anxiety, and anguish disappeared. Forgotten were the chores, the homework, the ordinary around me. Transcending boundaries was fun in those days. But as I reached adulthood, it became more difficult. More and more, the world was with me as I did chores and homework. More and more, my own fears were with me as I encountered others. More and more, I was aware of the boundaries of race, class, age, and sex. I felt myself cringe as the bantering youth in the street came nearer. I felt myself become tearful as I encountered a senior citizen living with pain or the limited choices of a fixed income. I felt myself become angry as I was subjected to the indignities of being rejected by others because I'm Black, because I'm a woman, or because of the blind person or the openly gay person I was with. I felt myself become unwilling to acknowledge my oneness with the addicted person who is my friend, or the homeless person sleeping on the benches in the park. Today, transcending boundaries is hard work. For one thing, I've created some of them since I was young, and I've built them higher and stronger than they once were. For another thing, I'm much more self-righteous and much less humble than I was then. Sometimes, when I'm at my best, I remember that the other I distinguish myself from, could be me in another time, another place, another circumstance. Then I remember the words of a colleague who observed that it is, quote, my racism, my sexism, my homophobia, unquote, that I'm called upon to address. So I take a few deep breaths and begin to release the fears that are the boundaries between me and my fellow humans.
I've been finding it spiritually challenging to live in this divided country. The hardest thing is to reconcile my UU principles and my strong feelings toward policies I loathe and people who support those. I believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. But wait, do I believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every Trump supporter and every COVID-denying, anti-masking libertarian? How much compassion do I bring to thoughts of or interactions with white supremacists or gun control opponents? I often think of such people as them with a capital T. Where have my egalitarian and communitarian values gone when I think of the autocrat-following, narrow-minded, selfish crowd I believe are destroying our country? Where are my small d democratic values when I think of my compatriots who disagree with me about really important stuff? I have to admit that my values must be pretty shallow if they melt away so easily. Since the 2016 election, I vacillated between two poles. I try to sit tight at, we have to unite with them. It can't be politics as usual. We have to compromise. That's how democracy works. And the alternative is civil war. But I constantly bounce to the other pole. I wish they would secede, the South and other red areas with them. I don't want to live in the same country with those people. I who hate the slogan, America, love it or leave it. Aren't I saying the same thing? My American way or the highway. Oh boy, this is not who I want to be. I want to be the good UU and the middle child reconciler that I usually am. I want to be that even when thinking about those who, for short, I'll call red staters. This is the spiritual crisis I've been in for the last 5+ years. Two parts of me in constant battle. One stands up for my desire for a country where my values flourish. Fairness, inclusion, taking care of each other, a strong democracy. The other stands up for a benevolent attitude toward everyone and against writing people off. It's a civil war inside of me. How can I see myself and them as us? In preparing these reflections, I kept thinking of South Africa. When I pondered the theme of unity, I thought of truth and reconciliation processes, of forgiveness, of how it's possible to turn former enemies into neighbors and fellow citizens. Thinking of Black South Africans' challenge after apartheid really shames me away from saying, it's too hard for me to live in the same country with that person because they want textbooks I object to in our schools, or they deny climate change. In the US, I wonder if our two large opposing political subcultures can ever reunite as one country. I wonder if I can become of one mind and heart and really want to do what it will take. I did some self-assessment, asking myself how I have crossed divides in our country. Mostly I've crossed class and race lines to work with people I feel politically aligned with, prisoners in particular, and their families. I have not crossed the divide between red and blue. Mostly I try to stay away from folks with MAGA hats or attitudes. So I have some changes to make. To contribute to national reconciliation in my life will require bursting my internet bubble, and more importantly, my social bubble. I'll have to seek out interaction with those on the other side. I'll have to get to know individuals who I tend to stereotype and disparage because of their party loyalty or their position on a given issue. My spiritual weakness shows itself when political differences become apparent. I can't quell my emotional reactions, and my more loving self gets submerged. I remember when John Roberts had recently been confirmed to the Supreme Court. I was primed to see him as an enemy because he was a conservative and was supported by the wrong senators. But then I read something about his being an adoptive parent. And as my mother would have said, there's a special place in heaven for people who adopt children. My chilly political heart instantly warmed to him. Suddenly, I would have liked to have shaken his hand. If I see my friend Raymond, from whom I've gotten estranged, as a resentful white man with some racist attitudes, I'll never extend my hand across our differences. I'll do it only when I'm seeing Raymond, the physics teacher, who lights up with childlike excitement every time he explains a scientific idea, and who at 80 hasn't stopped being the first one on the dance floor and the last one off. And when I see his economic precariousness and remember how much he sacrificed professionally to raise a family, when I see his pain and his fear. I don't remember much from the hundreds of masses I went to in my Roman Catholic childhood, but there's one sermon that has always echoed clearly in my mind. Its message was, "Hate war, but love the warrior." I took it to heart, and I will myself to practice it. Though I hate certain beliefs, can I learn to really love those who believe them?
Spirit of life, open my heart to all human beings, including those who are least like me. Fill me with care for all of nature, the foundation of our life. Give me strength to work for justice, for kindness, for the breaking down of barriers, for love. Open my eyes and ears to the beauty all around me. Let me use my mind and spirit to deepen my understanding of life. Make me generous in helping all beings who need help. Amen. And may I recommend to you a beautiful 11-minute guided meditation on the subject of gratitude, offered by the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, the president of the UUA. Reverend Teresa told me about it. I'm going to put the link in the chat so that you may enjoy it at your leisure. Okay, and now we will have a grateful, a song. Time to enjoy it.
You're my life, you're my breath, you're a smile, you're my guest. You're the earth, you're the sun, you're the grass, you are love. You're my hands, you're a bug, you're my eyes, you're a hug. You're the light in the dark, you're the spark, you are fun. You're my mom, you are water, you're the stars, you're my daughter. You're my friend till the end, you're my dreams, you're my father. You're the ants on the ground, the miracles that surround. I'm feeling it all around, the hemisphere in the clouds. You're my pain, you're my sorrow, you're my hope for tomorrow. You're the strength when I'm hollow, you're the path that I follow. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss. The gift to realize that everything
All
is a
that
gift.
I am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all, for it all. Grateful for it all.
You're the blessings every time I try to count. You're the lessons that I learn every time I turn around. You're the water when I'm burned every time I think I found everything I'm looking for. You're the sign saying stop to take a bow and keep moving forward and start looking towards your heart. It'll open all the doors and only then you'll start to hear the world singing chorus with your mind and heart. Aligned in purpose, everything will feel gorgeous.
All that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all.
Every day I sit and pray, cause what I have is more than I deserve or could ever imagine. How do I give back to all of this magic and spread the love so everybody can have it? Doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor, if I got a family or if I'm all alone. Bad things happen, I can just complain and moan. But there's a million things that I can be grateful for.
So I lift up my hands now, and I open my heart, and my gratitude goes out to everything near and far. All that I am,
Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss, the gift to realize that everything is a gift.
Hello again, everybody. For several years now, I've been feeling deeply estranged from a large number of my fellow Americans. It's not people of color I feel distant from, it's white people. The ones who believe in limitless gun rights and who think mask mandates and COVID vaccinations are a major threat to our liberty. Do you feel that gulf too? Today, I want to dig into the roots of that estrangement. How did I ever get so angry at the white working class, the class that both my husband and I were born into? Maybe the answer lies in the reason so many white working people feel that this country doesn't work for them anymore. Well, a Marxist would say, of course the system doesn't work for the working class. It's capitalism. A system, according to Marx, designed to benefit only the wealthy owners of the means of production. But for many years, up till the 1970s, it looked as if the system did work for the working class in this country. It created an enormous amount of wealth, and a good chunk of that wealth went to people who worked in factories or in white-collar jobs that didn't require much education. Sociologists call this group the working class. But after a while, the people in it started calling themselves the middle class. That meant they saw themselves as having a solid place in the middle of the system. But then something happened. Starting in the 1970s, factories started automating and then closing down altogether because manufacturing shifted to other countries. Eventually, those changes started wiping out a lot of white-collar jobs too. Unions got weaker and weaker. For the first time in American history, the middle class stopped expecting that their children and grandchildren would live more comfortably than they did. The expression middle class shifted its meaning. It started to imply an underpaid, insecure, unvalued status. Education changed too. It used to be that married couples without college education could provide decent support for their families. That got much harder as more and more jobs demanded college degrees, even jobs where the work didn't really require higher education. Education had been touted as a ladder that anyone could use to reach prosperity, but it started looking more like a barrier. Young people who were good at schoolwork could still climb the ladder, but if you couldn't get a college degree, and after a while you needed at least one graduate degree, that usually meant you couldn't get a decent job. A lot of people who really weren't into schoolwork went deep into debt to go to college. And after they graduated, very often they still couldn't get a decent job. This country slipped from the land of opportunity to 27th in the world in social mobility. The myth of equal opportunity pretty much died. This situation led to enormous problems of addiction, not just to the old standby alcohol, but increasingly to opioids. The number of deaths from overdoses skyrocketed. The problem is still getting worse, and no one seems to know what to do about it. Now, where does racism fit in this story? Well, you can't understand the plight of the white working class without understanding the plight of people of color. These two things intersect with each other, intersectionality. People of color, especially Blacks, Latinos, and Indigenous people, were shut out of well-paid, skilled jobs until the late 1960s. And then, just a few years after those jobs finally started opening up to them, the long slide of American factory jobs began. And the increasing emphasis on higher education was especially hard on people of color, who had likely been stuck in lousy schools in kindergarten through 12th grade. And why didn't our country develop a strong welfare state like the ones in Western Europe? Well, I think a lot of the reason for that was that many white Americans just weren't eager to help poor Americans of color. It's no coincidence that the European countries with the strongest welfare states were in Scandinavia. Even today, around 80% of the people of Sweden are ethnic Swedes. In the years when Sweden was building up its welfare state, that would be the 1940s until around 1990, almost no one but ethnic Swedes lived in Sweden. Clearly, racism is a barrier to economic equality and economic justice in this country. And so is the tremendous gap in values between highly educated white Americans and white Americans who did not go to college. If you're a white person in this church, you may have some negative feelings about Blacks or Latinos or Indigenous people, but you probably wish you didn't have those feelings, and you're probably trying to get rid of them. But I'm guessing you are unashamedly angry at Trump supporters, especially the ones with very little education, that is, the white working class. You may be baffled at how anyone could support such a mindless, nasty nutcase for president. You may personally know people who believe in limitless gun rights, who want to take away a woman's right to choose abortion, who think mask mandates and COVID vaccinations are a major threat to our liberty, who applaud the exoneration of Kyle Rittenhouse, and who see the federal government as an evil force. If you do know people like that, even if they're your relatives or your old friends, you may feel it's useless to talk to them because there's such a huge gap in values and experience. A gulf, really. I feel that way about my cousins who think like that. I tend to assume any discussion we had would only deepen the gulf between us. Maybe you had some experience of that at Thanksgiving dinner just a few days ago. This isn't just a political issue, it's a spiritual issue. My core spiritual value is humanism, the ability to identify with all other human beings. Ironically, I find it harder to identify with some of my own cousins and my old schoolmates than to identify with most people in very foreign cultures. Now, I kind of get where white working class people are coming from. I know about the huge economic inequality in this country. I know about the way our government, often with Democratic Party support, has made decisions that help create that inequality. I'm a strong supporter of the Build Back Better bill, but I also know that programs to ease the struggles of people who don't make much money, like the Build Back Better bill, are not enough. They want jobs, jobs that enable them to live well without much government assistance. We don't need to agree with every political opinion of these millions of Americans to regain our capacity to see them as our struggling fellow humans. We need to be able to listen to them and talk to them and really get where they're coming from and identify with them and, well, to love them. I want to feel closer to people of color in this country, and I want just as much to feel closer to white working class people. I think this is the key, not just to healing our politics, but to healing our hearts and souls. Let's reach across the great divide to include all Americans.
Every day I give thanks for how much this church community means to me. I'm grateful for the opportunities to heal that I've found here, for dear friends I've made, and for the prospect of getting to know the rest of you in time. For rituals in which cherished abstractions come to life, for how we work together toward a better world. I'm grateful for the joys of singing together, worshiping together, holding hands, all of which we will do in person again. That's why I give wholeheartedly to First Unitarian of Oakland. It costs money, of course, to support our tremendous staff, our beautiful and historied building, and our many programs like social justice, religious education, and music, to name some favorites. If you also value what this congregation offers, please support it by giving as generously as you can. The screen will show you how. While you remain muted, please join me in saying the congregational commitment. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. And now here's the wonderful Susan Kiter with our closing song.
Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be here with you this morning. One million faces I'll never know. I watch them pass by my window. Sometimes I get lonely, even in a crowd. We're all desperate strangers reaching out. So many islands in the ocean, but we don't need to be alone. Come sit beside me, tell me your story. Together we'll tear down these fences and turn them into bridges, and turn them into bridges. Let's close the distance between you and me. Trade in our fear for curiosity. We are not so different. I want to know your name. Show me your broken heart and I will do the same. Will you join me on the journey? We can walk each other home. Come sit beside me. Tell me your story. Together we'll tear down these fences and turn them into bridges, and turn them into bridges. Come sit beside me. Tell me your story. Together we'll tear down these fences and turn them into bridges, and turn them into bridges. Turn fences into bridges and turn them into bridges.
Thank you, Susan. That was lovely. Our benediction today is in the words of the Buddha. May all beings be filled with joy and peace. May all beings everywhere, the strong and the weak, the great and the strong, the mean and the powerful, may all beings everywhere, seen and unseen, dwelling far off or nearby, may all be filled with lasting joy.